Some betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the ones who call you brother. Adrian wasn't just my best friend, he was family. And Emily? She was my world. I thought love and friendship could survive anything, but I was wrong. Because sometimes, the people you trust most are the ones who end you quietly. Some people walk into your life quietly, and somehow they end up defining every part of it. For me, that person was Adrian Carter, my best friend since college. We met on the first day of freshman year, two broke guys with big dreams and bad jokes. Adrian was the kind of person who lit up every room, confident, charming, effortlessly funny. I was the quieter one, more focused, more grounded, but somehow our differences made us inseparable. Through college, we shared everything: textbooks, food, even heartbreaks. When I got rejected from my dream internship, he stayed up all night with me, talking about how failure's just the beginning. When his father passed away, I was the one sitting next to him in silence, because sometimes silence says what words can't. We built our careers side by side. He went into marketing, I became an architect. We moved to the same city, rented apartments 2 blocks apart, shared beers after work, celebrated every success like it was our own. Adrian was more than a friend. He was my brother, the family I chose. Then came Emily. I met her at a client meeting, a bright, graceful interior designer with a laugh that could stop time. She was warm, kind, and honest in a way the world rarely is anymore. Adrian was the first person I introduced her to. I remember that night vividly, the 3 of us sitting at a rooftop bar, city lights flickering below. Adrian teased me, calling me awkward because I couldn't stop smiling at her. "You're gone, man," he said, laughing. He wasn't wrong. A year later, Emily and I got married, and Adrian stood right beside me as my best man. He gave a speech that made everyone laugh, then cry. He said, "I've never seen Ryan this happy. Emily, if you ever hurt him, you'll have to deal with me." Everyone cheered. I smiled, not realizing how cruelly ironic those words would become. After the wedding, Adrian became part of our family. Sunday dinners, movie nights, double dates. He was always there. Emily loved having him around. She said he made our house feel alive. And I agreed, because that's who Adrian was, the life of every room. If someone had told me then that this same man, my best friend, my brother, would one day destroy everything I loved, I would have laughed, because back then, our bond felt unbreakable. Back then, I thought love and friendship were enough to keep darkness away. But betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the ones who know your soul and still decide to wound it. And for me, that wound would come from the man I trusted more than anyone in the world. If someone had asked me then what happiness looked like, I would have said Sunday mornings with Emily humming in the kitchen and Adrian arguing with her about coffee. That was our world. Effortless, familiar, perfect. But perfection has a way of crumbling quietly. It doesn't explode, it fades, little by little, until one day you look around and realize everything feels different. It started small. Adrian began showing up even when I wasn't home, dropping by to check on Emily if I had late meetings. I thought nothing of it at first. He'd always been close to us. Why would I question it? Then came the silences. The long pauses at dinner when Adrian joined us. The quiet glances I couldn't quite interpret. Emily's laughter seemed to carry a different tone, one that didn't always include me. One night, I came home late and found them in the living room. A movie paused on the screen, their faces lit by soft lamplight. They both jumped when I entered.
Emily smiled too quickly. Adrian joked, "Man, you work too much. We almost started watching without you." I laughed it off, but something inside me tightened. After that, I started noticing patterns. Adrian's phone lighting up late at night. Sometimes she'd smile at a text and put it face down. When I asked, she'd say it was work. Adrian began canceling our guys' nights more often. Too tired, too busy. It was probably nothing, but probably started to sound a lot like denial. Still, I trusted them. I wanted to trust them. Because what's the point of love or friendship if you don't? One evening, as Emily washed dishes, I hugged her from behind. She felt stiff, distant. I asked, "You okay?" She nodded, "Just tired." Her voice trembled slightly. I kissed her shoulder anyway, pretending not to notice, pretending everything was fine. The worst part wasn't the suspicion. It was the guilt. The guilt of doubting the two people I loved most. I convinced myself it was stress, or paranoia, or maybe I was just overprotective. Adrian was like my brother. Emily was my wife. What could possibly go wrong? But the human heart has instincts, quiet warnings we drown out with logic, and mine whispered that something precious was slipping away from me. I remember standing at the window one night, watching the city lights, telling myself to stop imagining things. Behind me, Emily's phone buzzed on the counter. I turned. Adrian's name glowed on the screen. And for the first time, my hands began to shake. I didn't open it. I didn't ask. I just stood there, frozen, somewhere between fear and denial. Because once you ask the question, you can never unhear the answer. There are moments that split your life into two parts, before and after. For me, that moment came on a rainy Thursday night. I had been away on a short business trip, just 2 days. My last meeting ended early, so I decided to surprise Emily. I remember smiling as I drove home, imagining her face when she saw me at the door. I haven't stopped to buy her favorite lilies, white ones, the kind she said looked like tiny promises. When I turned into our street, I noticed something strange. There was a car parked outside our house, a black SUV, Adrian's. My first thought was innocent. Maybe he dropped by. He had the spare key. Maybe they were watching a movie, waiting for me. But as I approached the door, laughter floated out. Not the easy open kind. It was hushed, intimate. My heart began to pound. The lilies trembled in my hand. I turned the key slowly, careful not to make a sound. Inside, the living room lights were dim, a movie playing low on the TV. On the couch, them. Emily's head rested on Adrian's shoulder. His arm was around her. They didn't see me at first. They looked peaceful, familiar, like lovers, not strangers caught in sin. For a moment, I couldn't move. The flowers slipped from my fingers, falling silently to the floor. The sound, soft as it was, broke the spell. Emily gasped and shot up. Adrian froze. The room filled with a silence so heavy it felt like drowning. "Ryan," she began, voice cracking. Adrian stood, his face pale. "Ryan, listen, it's not—" But it was. It didn't need words or explanations. I could see it in their eyes, the guilt, the fear, the truth. Every laugh, every glance I'd ignored now screamed in my head, fitting together like shards of glass, forming a picture I never wanted to see. I wanted to shout, to throw something, to make them feel the way my chest felt, hollow and burning at once. But no sound came out. I just stared at them, trying to breathe, trying to believe this wasn't real. "How long?" That was all I managed. My voice didn't even sound like mine. Emily started crying. Adrian looked at the floor. Neither of them answered. And that silence told me everything. I left without another word. The rain hit my face as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. Behind me, the door creaked, someone calling my name, but I couldn't turn back. The lilies lay crushed on the doorstep, petals sticking to my shoes as I walked away. That night, I didn't just lose a wife. I lost my best friend and the man I used to be.
That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. I just sat in my car, parked under the pale glow of a streetlight, replaying everything. Every memory, every smile, every lie I hadn't seen. I thought I'd go back, demand answers, scream, break something. But when I finally did return the next morning, I was too empty for anger. The house looked the same. Same photos on the wall, same scent of coffee, but everything felt foreign, like walking through the ruins of someone else's life. Emily was sitting at the dining table, eyes swollen from crying. Adrian was there too, standing near the window, shoulders hunched, as if he already knew there was nothing left to defend. No one spoke at first. The silence between us was unbearable. Finally, I asked, "How long?" Emily's lips trembled. Adrian looked down. "Ryan," she whispered, "it just happened. We didn't mean for it to—" "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't insult me with that." Adrian stepped forward. "I swear to you, man, I never wanted this. You were my brother." My brother. The words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I wanted to hit him, but my hands wouldn't move. Anger would have been easier. But betrayal, real betrayal, doesn't give you the comfort of rage. It just drains you. Emily began sobbing. "Please, Ryan, say something." "What do you want me to say? That it's okay? That I understand?" I looked at her, the woman I'd once trusted with everything. "You could have told me. Either of you. I would have hated it, but at least it would have been honest." She covered her face, crying harder. Adrian just stood there, his guilt hanging heavy in the air. The thing about love is, it doesn't die cleanly. It leaves parts of itself inside you, even when everything else is shattered. I wanted to hate them both, but standing there, all I felt was grief. Grief for the life I thought we had, for the years that suddenly meant nothing. Finally, I said the only thing I could. "I can't do this. Not now." I walked out, again, but this time slower, quieter. Adrian called my name. Emily begged me to stay, but I didn't turn around. The sound of the door closing behind me felt final, like a heartbeat stopping. As I reached my car, I caught my reflection in the window. My face looked older, harder. It hit me then. This was the moment my life split apart. There was no going back, no fixing it, just the silence that betrayal leaves behind. After that morning, my world shrank into silence. I packed a small bag, left the house keys on the counter, and moved into a one-bedroom apartment across town. It wasn't much. White walls, a single couch, a mattress on the floor, but it was quiet, and quiet was all I could stand. Days bled into nights without meaning. I stopped answering calls, stopped going to work for a while. The world outside kept moving. Cars passing, people laughing, while I sat inside, staring at nothing, trying to remember who I was before everything fell apart. Sometimes I'd catch myself reaching for my phone,
wanting to text Adrian to ask why. But then I'd remembered that the person I used to confide in was the reason I was broken. That kind of loss, it's not just emotional, it's existential. It shakes the very idea of trust. Emily sent letters at first, handwritten, tear-stained, full of words like forgive and mistake. I never opened them, because forgiveness, when the wound is still bleeding, feels like betrayal to yourself. Adrian tried to see me once, showed up at my building, stood outside my door. I saw his shadow through the peephole, heard his voice, trembling, apologetic. "Ryan, please, I need you to hear me out." But I couldn't, because if I did, I knew I'd break again. Nights were the worst. That's when memories crept in. Laughter, old road trips, Emily's head on my shoulder, Adrian's voice saying, "Brothers for life." Now, those same memories burned. I'd lie awake, wondering where things had started to go wrong. Was it a moment? A look? Or had the betrayal been building, quietly, for years? Time didn't heal, it numbed. Slowly, the pain dulled just enough to function again. I returned to work. I smiled at colleagues, even went for drinks after hours. But every face, every laugh reminded me of what I'd lost. Trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild. It reforms into caution. You start seeing ghosts in every kind gesture, every promise. One evening, months later, I walked past a restaurant downtown. Through the window, I saw them, Emily and Adrian, sitting together, laughing softly. She looked happy. He looked free. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger, just a deep, hollow acceptance. Some wounds don't close. They become part of you. I realized then that my life wasn't over, just rewritten. I kept walking, hands in my pockets, city lights reflecting on the wet pavement. The pain was still there, but it was quieter now. Like a scar that no longer bleeds, only aches when it rains.
It was almost a year later when the envelope arrived. Thick, white, elegant. I didn't recognize the handwriting at first. Then I did. Inside was a wedding invitation. Adrian Carter and Emily Davis, together at last. For a long moment, I just stared at it. My first instinct was to tear it apart, to throw it into the trash and pretend it never existed. But I didn't. I set it on the table and walked away. That night, I sat in the dark and thought about everything. The laughter, the pain, the silence that had followed. The next morning, I decided to go. Not for them, for me. The ceremony was held in the same church where Emily and I had been married. That irony wasn't lost on me. The stained glass windows looked exactly the same, sunlight bleeding through in soft colors, innocent, almost forgiving. I sat in the last row, far enough that no one noticed me. Adrian looked nervous at the altar. Emily looked radiant, the way she always did. For a second, I remembered the way her eyes used to search for mine in a crowd. Now, they searched for his. The vows were short. The crowd smiled, clapped, cheered. I didn't. I just watched, silent, my hands resting on my knees, feeling the weight of everything we lost. When it ended, I slipped out before anyone could stop me. Outside, the world felt lighter, as if the air itself had shifted. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that matched the quiet inside my chest. Then I heard footsteps. "Ryan!" I turned. Adrian stood there, still in his suit, breathless, eyes uncertain. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "You came." I did. My voice was calm, almost gentle. "I didn't think you'd ever want to see me again." I didn't. He looked down. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know
I never stopped thinking about what I did to you. I studied him, this man who had once been my brother, my family. The guilt in his eyes was real, but guilt doesn't undo damage. I hope, I said quietly, you never have to feel what I felt. He nodded, swallowing hard. You deserve peace, Ryan. I gave a faint smile. I think I'm finally getting there. And then I walked away. The church bells rang behind me as I stepped into the street. For the first time in months, I felt light, not happy, but free. Pain had carved something out of me, yes, but it had also left space for something new. Maybe not forgiveness, not yet, but peace.
People think betrayal destroys you, but truth is, it shapes you. It teaches you that not everyone who says they care truly does. It shows you how strong you can be when the world falls apart. I forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Sometimes closure doesn't come from answers, it comes from silence and learning to live again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us tell more stories about love, loss, and finding strength again.